Food chain, 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 food chain, chain, food chain, chain, food chain, chain, chain of food.
What is a food chain? A food chain shows how each living thing gets food and how nutrients and energy are passed from creature to creature. Food chains begin with plant life and ends with animal life. Some animals eat plants, some animals eat other animals. A simple food chain could start with grass, which is eaten by a rabbit. If you look at the diagram down at the bottom, the food chain begins with the sun. The sun gives nutrients and energy to the grass, which the grass is eaten by grasshoppers or the mice. Okay, so then the snake will eat the mice. The hawk will eat the snake. The hawk will eventually die. Once it dies, its body will disintegrate and go back into the earth, which it gives that nutrients of the compost, and it helps with growing up the grass. And then here we go again. When it rains, that gives the grass room to grow. On the other hand, in the sea life, we have at the bottom of the ocean, you have those algae, you have sea grass. Those things are eaten by those smaller planktons and the smaller little fish, which the smaller fish are then eaten by the bluegills and the groupers and the trouts, which those fish are eaten by the big ones like the sharks. That's how the food chain goes. Who's at the top of the food chain? Humans are. What is a food web? A food web is similar to a food chain but larger. Food webs show how plants and animals are connected in many ways. The arrow points from the organism being eaten to the organism that eats it. A food web or a food cycle is a natural interconnection of food chain. If you look at the diagram, you will see that a lot of things go right back to eating things off of the earth like the grass or the trees. And then it kind of disperses out where there's multiple animals that might eat the mice or the grasshopper. There might be multiple animals that will attack to eat the monkey or the skunk. There might be multiple animals that might want to eat the deer. And it goes up to the top where like the cheetah or the lion, those things mostly eat the bottom part of the food web. Same way with the marines, as far as like the fish in the sea. They start at the bottom and they work their way up the top. The smaller things are eaten, and the larger things eat from the smaller and down.
And today, we're going to explore the science of food web.
With Dr. Jeff.
Plants use the sun's energy to create food, which is then eaten by this caterpillar, giving energy to the caterpillar, which is then eaten by a bird, that is then in turn eaten by a snake, which is eaten by this eagle.
What you just described is a food chain. That's a sequence of living things in which each one feeds on the one below it. The flow of energy in a food chain always starts from the sun. Without the sun, there would be no plants.
I thought this lesson was about food webs.
We're getting there. A food web is made of many intersecting food chains, since most animals don't just eat one thing. All living things in an ecosystem are linked together in the food web. We can use a food web diagram like this one to study how energy and matter flow in an ecosystem.
Well, that got complex pretty fast.
can be a little bit overwhelming. Let's look at some animal examples and where they fit on the food web. I think that means it's time for a field trip!
Hey kids, you want to watch this whole episode?
Food chain. Let's make your own food chain. I have one here that I kind of made up. The grass, which is at the bottom, which you have the inchworm here that it will eat. The bird, the turtle will eat. Now, the turtle or the bird or the owl can eat the inchworm. Then you'll have the eagle, which will eat the turtle, the bird, the inchworm, maybe even the owl. Then you have the deer that can get any of those things at the bottom of the food chain if they are on the ground and in his area to prey on. And then at the top of the food chain, if we have and need be, all of us human beings, we do eat deer. Some people do eat turtle. There's a lot of meat in the wildlife that human beings do eat. We are at the top of the food chain.